Okay, so good morning, October 11th. We are going to this is our second fifth grade coaching session. Actually, our third since we had one face to face a couple weeks ago. And we are going to fall into nonfiction. Our reading unit of study that will begin on October 28th is the first part of nonfiction because we'll be returning to that later in the year, and that goes through about November 22nd. And the writing unit of study will start on November 11th, and that will go through December 9th. I can't believe we're already talking about November. My goodness, that's crazy. But here we go. Let's talk about these two units quickly. And I apologize because this PowerPoint, the letters on here were white, and I uploaded it about 10 minutes ago, and it came up black, and I'm not sure what that's all about. So I apologize for that. And the background was not that vibrant either. Um, so what I will do when I connect this PowerPoint to our project share page later today, I will be sure that you are able to see it more clearly. So I apologize for that. Um, but anyway, I'm going to talk about these things, so hopefully that will help. The top things to know for the nonfiction reading unit. First of all, you have to make sure on your pacing guide you look at the lessons that are taught because it kind of jumps around. And like I said, we'll be returning to that. So the lessons are 1 through 12, 30, 14 through 16, and then 31 in that order. So, I know that's kind of strange, but um, before I start with that, I just want to share. I always like to share just a couple little something that you could use with your kids. And this isn't going to be a whole text, but um, there's a website called greatfacts.com, GREATFACTS, greatfacts.com, and it has just a list of all these kind of weird and wonderful facts that I think would get kids excited about nonfiction. They get me excited about nonfiction. And here, I'm going to read three of the facts that came off of this website that you might want to share with your fifth graders. The first one, and they're just very short little facts. First one is most lipstick contains fish scales. Ew. Um, the next one is more people are killed by donkeys annually than are killed in plane crashes. And the third one, the typical lead pencil can draw a line that is 35 miles long. I don't know if I believe that last one because of all the little stubby pencils that our kids use, but when I saw these facts, I thought, man, these would be so great to use with kids to really get them excited about reading and writing about a nonfiction topic that excites them and makes them want to learn more. You know, like, wow, fish scales. Oh, let me go research that and see what I can find. I bet I could write a couple pages about that and put together a great essay about what our makeup is actually made of or something. So anyway, just a little snippet there. Now to talk about the nonfiction reading unit. This is where you're going to really introduce characteristics of nonfiction texts. So you're thinking about all those things like titles and headings and subheadings, bolded word, indexes, all those things that are usually more particular to nonfiction texts that our kids need to know about because often they may just skip over those thinking, oh, they're not that important. Whereas we know that those characteristics, those text features add to what the author is trying to teach us in the text. Um, some great ways to teach with nonfiction, obviously read alouds. And the great thing about nonfiction is you don't have to read a whole book. It can be an article from a magazine or a great fact, um, like the ones I just read you, or a brochure. You know, it can be just a short snippet from anything. Also, enlarge text for shared reading, even at fifth grade. It's great to put an article from Time for Kids or Kid Biz Everybody has access to KidBiz, even if your individual kids aren't using it. You as the teacher can go in and pull any of those articles at any Lexile level, put them under the document camera, and show kids those text features. Talk about those. Show them how you get through a nonfiction text yourself. That's very powerful. There's a lesson about using titles and headings and subheadings to make predictions. Again, those are things our children often skip over as they're reading, where I always tell them, hey, that subheading is there to say, and it's bigger and usually in bold letters to say, hey, look at me, I'm important. I'm going to tell you what this section is going to be about, and you can make predictions about it. Another thing, the comprehension strategy that you'll work on in this unit, at the beginning part of this unit, is asking questions, how readers ask questions about nonfiction as they go through the text. Um, you'll hit main idea and details. You'll look at how texts are organized, such as does the author use question and answer, sequence, cause and effect, all those different ways of organizing a text to get our point across. And you can start to kind of make some anchor charts with these things. Another thing I have listed here is conversation. You'll want to make sure that your kids get in lots of talking time with each other through interactions with you and in strategy groups, um, conferences with you, lots of turning and talking, just to get them excited about different nonfiction topics. The use of graphic organizers comes in a lot with this reading unit, which is great, um, especially thinking about cause and effect. Some of you might be familiar with thinking maps, and I will attach one to our project share page later, but there's a thinking map. There's a great thinking map that can be used for cause and effect, and more sophisticated when you have cause and effect, especially at fifth grade, where you have one cause and a lot of effects, or some events and then another cause and more effects. And there are a couple maps that can be used for that that are really great. Um, and of course, those anchor charts and using sticky notes to notice text features and sticky notes to ask questions on in their books. Um, use lots of those with nonfiction. It's very helpful. Okay, just going to progress to the prompt-based essays writing unit. This is pretty short, lessons 2 through 9, and this is where we're going to talk about our STAR rubric and how to write to a prompt, since we know that's something that is part of life and something we have to do often. The unit starts out with looking at the STAR rubric for the threes and fours, which we think is very helpful because we want to have kids look at strong papers first and look at really good models first. So you'll really dig into the threes and fours and the STAR rubric with your kids, and also look at the twos and ones, and go through that expository rubric and notice how threes and fours, stronger papers are organized, what their conventions look like, um, the development of their ideas. You'll use some kinesthetic motions, starting with lesson 2, with teaching those, such as one example, the voice. You can mimic holding a microphone and singing enthusiastically, and that's a way to get them to remember to use voice even when they're writing a nonfiction piece. There's a great analogy in one of the lessons about how we take the time to carefully pack a suitcase before we take a trip to make sure that we have everything, and that's what we want our kids to do, is pack their suitcase full of really good planning when they're planning an expository essay. You're going to go back to the boxes and bullets that was talked about that you guys are doing, I think, starting next week with fifth grade with the supercharged essays. So it'll lead very nicely into the prompt-based essays as you start to work on those. And the boxes and bullets is such a great, simple organizer. Um, it's something I use myself as a writer, very similar to that, to organize my first draft. So what you're going to do in this unit is you'll just walk through um, with the class writing a prompt-based essay using a graphic organizer to plan the first draft. You'll talk about the characteristics of those one-page essays, those 26 lines that they now have to write in. How do we use that space and what does it look like? You'll teach them how to use the expository rubric to revise their first draft and edit their first draft and have them work on a prompt-based essay. And then at the end, you'll have a little toast to the journey they took and have them do some self-reflecting on what it means to write to a prompt. Okay, this next slide, a harvest of nonfiction mentor texts. We're so lucky now that there are so many great nonfiction models out there um, for us to use as teachers with our kids. There didn't used to be a lot of good ones. Now there are so many and written at all kinds of levels. Um, and I've listed a few here that are just some ideas. Again, like I said, you can use articles, and I love to pick up like those brochures that you get, when you go to a hotel in another city and you see they have all these brochures for places to visit. Those are great nonfiction things for kids to use. They're really interesting and they're written at a simple level and they have great photos and different text features you can use. But here's just a list of some books that you might want to use. This third one on the list is The Honeymakers by Gail Gibbons. Her book, she has so many books out there that are nonfiction and they're great. And even for fifth grade, they are written, they're picture books, but they are a wonderful model for how to write nonfiction. Um, and like I said, when I post this later, it will be easier to read. But the last bullet, a lot of you in your literacy library, you may have those benchmark education books. Um, they ask your instructional specialist about those to see if you have them. If not, to the possibility of ordering some of those. They are fabulous. They're written at usually anywhere from, well, actually, no, they have K through 5 of those. The ones I really love are at the third, fourth, and fifth grade levels, and they're about 5 chapters long each, and you can divide them up into chapters to use in guided reading or as a read aloud um, or just for independent reading. But they're high interest, great text features. The kids, every small group I've ever used them with, they love them. They really draw them into nonfiction, social studies, science, and even they have math kind of related ones that are great. So it's just some ideas to think about, stepping outside of the box a little bit. I always like to include a little test talk here. Obviously, with nonfiction, we know there's going to be at least probably 2 selections on STAR that are nonfiction informational selections. So here are just some question stems that you should use with your students just as you're reading aloud and doing think alouds so that they are hearing that language that they'll see later. For example, the third one down here, it says by organizing paragraph blank, like paragraph 3, sequentially, the author is able to. And that's taken right off of last year's STAR test. Or they might say by organizing paragraph 3 using cause and effect, the author is able to. So that's a great example related to what you'll be doing in the reading unit for October and November. Of course, we're hitting summary really hard. That's an issue across our district with not only nonfiction but also fiction. So the more you can, read a quick article and say, "Ooh, let's summarize this," and explain to your students how that's very different from a retell where we're telling just every single little thing. We're with the summary, we're trying to just give the gist. Um, and of course, there are some vocabulary stems to some author's purpose and main idea type questions there that you'll want to um, just use that language. Those are strategies that readers need to know regardless of what's going to be on the test. So, just some things to think about there. And lastly, important dates to remember. I just have one for you, and that's the next fifth grade coaching session that will be on Friday morning at 7:30, November 8th, and it will be Adobe Connect. So I hope to see all of you there. Um, have a great Friday and a fabulous weekend. Um, and like I said, I will be posting this later and clean up this PowerPoint for you. I apologize for that again. I'll work on that next time. Um, so have a great week. If you have any questions or anything, please email me or your coach, and we will get back to you. Thanks.